minutes late. I just had to take care of a few errands, but I do hope everybody is doing well. As always, please take a moment, jump in the chat, say hello, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going, and let's chat about Freemasonry. As you know, I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern and 1 a.m. Eastern. Because for some reason, my audience is like me and doesn't like to sleep, which means we do this instead. The last few weeks, or last few days, I should say, I've been talking about Freemasonry and its connections to and with the Enlightenment period, a period I'm quite fond of in terms of my own political beliefs, but also, or philosophical beliefs, I should say. But also Freemasonry was very much intertwined with the Enlightenment, right? Many Enlightenment thinkers were themselves Freemasons, or Enlightenment figures, perhaps would be the better term. So, Mozart, Voltaire, Diderot, Ben Franklin, George Washington, the founders who were Freemasons, John Hancock. So there was a lot of kind of overlap and connection between the two. But I do hope everybody is doing well. I hope you'll take a moment to please hit that like and subscribe button. As I always say, and if you've already done so, thank you so much for doing so. Jack is back. Hey, I rhymed. Jack, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment to let me know how you're doing, how your day is going, what is new and exciting. And thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. It's been a great couple of days of streaming. A lot of new people joining, which has been wonderful. Pops, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. How was your visit yesterday with your neighbor? Did it go well? Kirk is back. Welcome, Kirk. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Systemic noise. Took me a second there. Sorry about that. You guys probably can't see him. It got blocked, but I can see the message. Systemic noise says, I am a wannabe Mason. Well, systemic noise, if that is the case, then I would like all the money back that I spent on dues. Not that it was that much. It's about $100 per lodge per year. I remember 5 lodges. But still, that's how you feel about me. Bruce Gladney. Bruce, I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. What is going on with you? I hope everything is going well. I hope you're having a great day. I do these streams. Today I was thinking once again talking about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment period, because there's a lot of connection between the two, and I'm somebody who is rather fond of the Enlightenment. I'm a Shriner. I outrank you, buddy. Well, sir, I believe you may be misinformed about what Freemasonry is or the ranking systems. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the 3rd degree, or the Master Mason degree. Beyond that, there are concordant bodies and rites: Scottish Rite, York Rite, a shrine. But I'm an 18th degree Mason. I don't outrank a Master Mason. That's not how it works, right? There is no rankings beyond. To me, the highest rank in Masonry is immediate past master, right? That's what it is. Isaac says hello. Hello, Isaac. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Kirk. I appreciate that as well. Oriental. I love Oriental Lodge. It's one of the best spots. Oriental Lodge is from Chicago, which absolutely a place that is in my heart and soul. I love Chicago. Amit Malik. You guys can't see this question either. or this statement either. He put in the chat, it was hidden, but nonetheless, he asks, why am I gay? Well, I am not gay. However, you know, if I was, I'm sure I do very well because I'm so handsome. All the dudes would love me, let me tell you. Oh, Arizona. Okay, so I met you in Arizona then. I loved my Arizona trip. Whenever I think of Oriental, I always think of Chicago, but I should have checked the lodge number. So then I would have met you maybe on my trip to Nicolas, which was awesome. Albert Pike will smite you. I do, Isaac. I recognize the name, but they had a lot of people on the stream. I mean, Albert Pike was a Southern Scottish Rite, Southern jurisdiction Scottish Rite author. I have respect for Albert Pike, but he got a lot of things wrong as much as he got things right. The Bill of Rights says, nice guy. I am a nice guy. At least I like to think I am. John Smith says, just keep your shirt on. I mean, I can't make any promises. I mean, if I took my shirt off, let me tell you, all of the views this stream would get, it would be incredible. I loved my trips down to Phoenix, Arizona. Or Arizona in general. I don't think I've necessarily seen a more beautiful scenery than I saw when I was getting a ride down from Phoenix, Arizona to Nogales, Arizona. It was just gorgeous. Looking out the car, seeing the desert, it was beautiful. And Arizona is an absolutely awesome and wonderful state. I loved visiting it. Thank you, everybody, once again for being here. I truly appreciate it. We'll just give it a bit of time to see who joins. I mean, I can't get a wife. Why would I'm not going to get a husband either. You know, they would find me tiresome. Franklin Saint, what's up, bro? What is up, Franklin? I hope you're doing well. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As always, the first hour, we just wait to see who joins and talk about whatever in terms of Freemasonry and questions people have, comments. And then the second hour, we switch to specific topics. Once again, I was thinking of talking about the Enlightenment period. Jeff's YouTube HQ. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. So Franklin, let me know how you're doing. Kirk, when you say how far along, do you mean how far along am I in Freemasonry? Or how far along am I in terms of my YouTube channel and stuff? In Freemasonry, you know, I'm a past master as well as a current master of Border Cities Lodge. And I am a 18th degree Scottish Rite. But really, what matters are the first 3 degrees. And I mean, I would say what matters most is actually worshipful master, or even immediate past master might be the highest rank you can get. Beyond that, everything else doesn't make you you don't outrank the Masons. Warzone Casual. Thank you, Warzone. I appreciate that very much. I hope you have a great day as well. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. And Franklin Saint, that's how we do it, one like at a time. So I truly, truly appreciate it. But I hope everybody is doing well. I'm working on this poll question I want to ask. Let me just get this ready because I like to ask poll questions. It gives me ideas of what people want to talk about. You know what, Kirk? You were the first like, so I appreciate that. You were here right from the start, right? So you are number one. You are the OG. You are the original. I mean, there are many reasons I don't have a girlfriend. I mean, my looks is just one of them. It's also my personality, my sense of humor. I mean, for heaven's sakes, there's many reasons I don't have a girlfriend. The looks is just one of many. You know, I'm socially awkward. I spend all my time at the Masonic Lodge. So, you know, Bro owns it. Well, you gotta own it. I mean, you gotta own it. You can't you can't not. You know, what I lack in looks, I make up for with a not winning personality. So, I have that going for me, and also bad decision making. Johnny Rockwell is back. How's it going, Johnny Rockwell? I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll take a moment, hit the like button, and everybody here, Warzone Casual, etc. I hope you'll take a moment to hit the subscribe button, since I'm, owning my challenges, to make me feel better. Hit that like and subscribe button. We will do so at a later point, Milton Knowles, but we'll keep it in mind. Anybody who wants to worship Milton Knowles, please feel free. You do need to believe in a supreme being to be a Freemason. So if Milton Knowles is your supreme being, then that is fine. Then so be it. I won't judge you. Warzone, that's probably better. I mean, no offense, Milton Knowles, but if the choice is between you and Jesus, I think the smarter choice would be Jesus. But whatever it is, I do hope you're doing well, though. Warzone Casual, I think you're new to the stream. I don't recall seeing you before. If you have been on before and I've just missed you, then please forgive me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Freemasonry. I'm happy to try to answer them, positive, negative. I'd love to know. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, stay out of my personal life. I mean, what I'll say is, there's always going to be a few trolls and a few people in the chat making smart remarks. If they, depending where it goes, sometimes I'll block them. But if they, you got to kind of have a thick skin. And usually they're only around for the first few minutes. And I find eventually they go away, and then we get Masons on to talk about specific Masonic questions. So yeah, it just takes time. And like I said, the first hour, Bruce, is usually just waiting for audience members to come along and talking about anything in general. The second hour is when we have specific topics, like again in this case, Freemasonry and the Enlightenment era. Royal is here. See, I think that one person saying nice things about me. So that's nice. I got Royal. I keep trying to write this poll question, and I keep on getting sidetracked. Let me see if I can finally get this sorted out. So I'm going to do, is Freemasonry demonic? I've heard some things. And Raised Eyebrow is back. Welcome back, Raised Eyebrow. Warzone Casual, thank you for the question. I truly appreciate it. It is not demonic. So I've been a Freemason since 2007, so approximately 20 years, which is crazy to think that it's been that long. I've been to approximately, I was trying to do the math in my head, approximately 3,000 Masonic events, meetings, ceremonies, rituals, and at no point have I ever seen anything that that I would consider to be demonic or referencing demons of any sort. You do need to believe in a supreme being to be a Freemason, so there is kind of a spiritual belief element to it, but it's not demonic because it's not. Never ever heard anybody, for example, say their supreme being is like a demon of some sort. It tends to fall under the kind of either Abrahamic religions, so they'll be Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or they may be First Nations or Indigenous. They may be Hindu. That is, so there's different types of beliefs. Well, that one, we will be getting rid of him. You do not need anybody to vouch for you, Masonic Courtney, but I can vouch for you. And yeah, as my dad says, Masons do a lot in the community. They help people with cancer. They help people who have not giving people cancer. That sounded weird. They help people who have cancer get to and from their appointments by operating what they call cancer cars. So they'll pick you up, take you to your appointment, take you back home. They'll help people financially with, different needs. They'll support different charities. There's always one in the chat war zone, so that guy got blocked. But, it kind of is what it is. All right. Favorite Enlightenment Mason. Round 2. So I understand there can be, and there are Masons in the chat, there can be some conspiracy theorists about Freemasonry, or conspiracy theories about Freemasonry, and sometimes they will reference demons. I'm not sure where that started. Well, I do have some ideas of where it started, but it kind of, is what it is. Thank you, Sebas. I appreciate that. Just finally getting this thing up. I spelled that correctly? Nope, I did not spell that correctly. There we go. I do not believe Will Smith is in the chat, so I'm going to remove him. But if he is, I will keep his wife's name out of my mouth. Thank you so much for being here. As I said, we will give it about another hour or another 45 minutes. Then we'll start talking once again about the main subject, which is Freemasonry and the Enlightenment period, and the connections between Freemasonry and the Enlightenment period. There's a lot more to it than people think. Apparently, yeah, which, it's more views. So there is that. We have a lot of things that we're basically running into 8 Warzone Casual. So I always try to preface when I talk about degrees that the degree that matters is your Master Mason degree. There is no higher degree in Freemasonry than that. Everything else is kind of, a concordant body. It's lateral, it's not vertical. But I am, aside from having a Master Mason, as well as being a Worshipful Master, I am 3rd degree, I'm a 18th degree Scottish Rite, so Rose Croix. I did not go up to get my 32nd. I may do that at some point, but so 18th degree Scottish Rite. And I've not joined the York Rite bodies yet. Nor the Shrine, but maybe one day. George Washington, 3 votes. Thomas Jefferson, 25%. Good for you, Courtney. I got my coffee as well, so makes sense. Coffee's my favorite thing in the world. But I do hope everybody is doing well. Once again, it is amazing the extent to which Freemasonry and the Enlightenment are connected. And people have talked about this a lot. I'm not by any means the first person to point this out. Just in terms of the number of famous Enlightenment thinkers who were themselves Freemasons. Voltaire, Diderot, Mozart, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington, Condorcet, I should say. So there's a lot of amazing, and for me personally, Voltaire, Diderot, 2 of my favorite writers, were themselves Freemasons, and Masonic ideals connected to things like democracy, tolerance, liberty. All of these things were kind of fostered in Masonic lodges and then made their way through the Enlightenment movement. And by the same token, it worked the opposite way as well. A lot of times, Enlightenment ideals made their way into Masonic lodges. I mean, maybe. I am as top of dog as it comes. You know, actually, I'm not. And Freemasonry, it's interesting. We had somebody come in with the name Andrew Tate. I do believe that when it comes to Freemasonry, we do offer and provide a better alternative for men, and particularly young men, than what the Andrew Tates of the world provide. Right? I 100% believe that to be the case. It's one of the reasons why I think Freemasonry is so important. Is there's a lot of, I would say, incredibly dangerous influences out there, and having an order that promotes kind of a healthy, tolerant, supportive way to live one's life, focuses on kindness, improvement, both of the self but also of the world. I think we need that. We need that voice now more than ever. And that's why I think it's so important that Freemasonry stick around. Unfortunately, you know, everybody's kind of being challenged by, in civil society or civic society, numbers going down, things like that, but we're working on it. Thank you, Sebas. I hope that you will hit that like and subscribe button, and I hope that you are doing well. 5 votes. George Washington is well in the lead. Thomas Jefferson is at 1. No John Adams. I've never heard of Lodge 777 in Antarctica, but I would love to go. That would be incredible. I would love to visit a Masonic lodge in Antarctica. I would love to visit a Masonic lodge in every continent. But I've never even heard of Lodge 777 in Antarctica, so I know nothing about it. I do remember you, Quiz. Welcome. I hope that you're doing well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if, so February 5th, 1935 it was established. That's really cool. I'm doing well. I mean, Freemasonry, I used to always say, and I guess I'm going to kind of modify this a little bit. I used to say that Freemasonry always, you know, spread around the world 3 ways primarily. The first was through military expansion. Army bases, when they were traveling different parts of the globe, would bring, or army regiments, when traveling to different parts of the globe, they would have many Masons in them, and they would set up Masonic lodges on military camps and military bases. And you do still see that nowadays with, for example, the Middle East. In some countries, the exclusive location of Masonic lodges is on a military base, like Qatar, for example. From the American military base. So there is still Freemasonry expanding via military expansion or military travel. The second way it expanded was through economic expansion. For example, in America, when they were having the great, gold rush, many Masonic lodges were formed. In California, in gold rush towns, just the general westward expansion of America. Masonic lodges followed behind that expansion. Rail lines, often you'd see, as rail lines were built, connecting countries, Masonic lodges were connected at the same time, or would follow the rail lines behind. The third way was through education, particularly young men traveling from their countries to Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, or in England, Oxford, for example, finding Freemasonry on campus, and then bringing Freemasonry back to their home countries. That happens a lot in the Middle East as well. But the fourth way, I would add, based on what I'm just reading now about Antarctica, is it also, Freemasonry expanded through exploration, not for economic purposes or for military, but just exploration for the sake of exploration, like in Antarctica. These explorers often brought with them Masonic lodges. And it's not just in Antarctica, but it happens, in many locations where you may have a scientific outpost, or especially back in the day when they were trying to, find different trade routes, the ships would have Freemasons, and these Masons would, bring Freemasonry with them. So YM, sorry, but I mean, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for being here. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. But I'm not one who believes in, for example, chemtrails, nor one who believes in, for example, the government's poisoning food and water. I think the government, I'm not going to say the government is doing a great job, but the government is full of people trying their best, just like everywhere else. Well, atheist all the way. There are many wonderful Germans out there. I see what you did there, but everybody, plenty of good people all around. Corey, Skating Walter. I'm very sorry, Skating Walter. I do not know what you said there. I think you're saying, who is the government? I don't speak a lot of Spanish. Well, it depends where you were located. I mean, it was growing in the early parts of the 20th century. It was growing quite substantially, especially in the 1920s. 1950s, it started to significantly reduce in, membership-wise in the 60s. I think it had, in the 19th century, more of an emphasis on the social aspect and the social club aspect, whereas in the 18th and 17th centuries, it had more of an emphasis on philosophical understandings and philosophical discussions. And it was less a social club and more philosophical, almost philosophical ideas lab. That's why you saw so many Enlightenment thinkers join. And also in the 17th century, it was somewhat more political. Freemasonry's never been political in the sense of like, I know Masons who are Republicans, I know Masons who are Democrats, I know Masons who are conservative, liberal, but there was a time in the 18th century where at least the perception of Freemasonry was that it was a left-wing organization, primarily because of people like I can't even name now, Garibaldi in Italy, for example, is one example of someone who was very publicly left-wing and very publicly a Freemason. Tyler, welcome, Tyler. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. We're talking about Freemasons, not your friend Mason Randolph, but unless he could have been. I don't know, anything about him. Cancer and cardiovascular health has skyrocketed since the early. True, but I do wonder about those stats, how accurate they were. I mean, my suspicion is for most of human history, if you had cancer, you wouldn't necessarily know it. You would die from it, but people wouldn't know the cause of it or have any way to assess what happened, right? It's only, I'd say, in the last maybe 50 to 70 years that we've really become good at diagnosing actual conditions. I mean, how many people throughout history have, for example, died of old age? And it was only years later we learned that it was actually, diabetic complications, cancer, heart disease. I mean, how many people were scanned for things like high cholesterol before, let's say, 1980, right? Like, I have no way to know for sure. Like, Pops is, I'm not going to say you're old, Pops. But, I mean, do you remember, for example, look at heart disease. Do you know, for example, like, when you were growing up, was your dad ever checked for high cholesterol? Or, like, when did they start doing stuff like that? Actually checking for these types of heart diseases and cholesterol checks and all that type of stuff. What are the core principles of Freemasonry? The core principles of Freemasonry, in my opinion, is that the world can be made better through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Or the world is worth trying to make better through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. So when it comes to mental health issues, YM, I don't 100% disagree with you. I don't even mostly disagree with you. I do believe that mental health, is an issue. I'm concerned about mental health problems that seem to be on the rise. June, by the way, is Mental Health Month for men, Men's Mental Health Month. But I also truly believe that Freemasonry provides an opportunity to 100% help men's mental health. It provides a safe space to talk, a safe space to be with other people who can support you, a safety net to catch you if, for example, you start to slide in mental health issues, or maybe you have a mental health issue and you're not taking care of yourself properly. People can see that and talk to you about it and say, like, hey, we're noticing something's wrong. Like, my pop was talking and he was saying, he's getting older, he's concerned about dementia, things like that. When you get older, you have to think about those things. And his doctor said, just always be around people regularly, see people regularly. They can monitor you and let you know if they start to notice concerns and issues that you have, like forgetting things, whatever it might be. And so again, Freemasonry, it's like if you're always going to Masonic Lodge or you're part of a lodge, you now have brothers who can pay attention to you, see how you're doing, and what it is that you want to talk about, and how you're doing, and bring up concerns. Because they may notice mental health issues before you do. Right? I think it's really, really, really important that we don't dismiss mental health concerns, especially amongst men, and we provide spaces and areas in which men can have support, talk about those things in a healthy way, not in a Andrew Tate, my mental health is bad, so I'll be mean to women kind of a way, And I think Freemasonry provides that. Yeah, so when people talk about, for example, rates of heart disease have gone up, it's like, to me, it's one of those things where, maybe they have, but I also suspect that in many cases we just weren't scanning for those things or checking for those things. Shane Graham, I'm glad. I support Freemasonry too. I love Freemasonry. So it's wonderful that you are here. Thank you. Hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. P. Vacker, I don't believe that. I think women are just like, I think some women are jealous, some aren't. I think some men get jealous, some don't. And by the way, since we're talking about women, I am going to mention once again, because I always try to mention this, that Freemasonry, while it has a fraternal component, it is not exclusive to men. There is the Order of Women Freemasons, as well as Eastern Star, as well as Rainbow. And those are all wonderful organizations and wonderful parts of the Masonic family. But thank you, everybody, for joining. I truly appreciate it. Shane, I hope you'll hit that like button and subscribe button. Same thing with everybody joining us so far. I would truly appreciate a like and subscribe. It helps more people find the channel. Share the stream, etc., etc. We have got 13 votes, by the way. George Washington, 62%. Thomas Jefferson, 31%. One for Condorcet from France at 8%. We had a message from P. Vacro. It's okay to fart anywhere, I say. Whether in church or chapel, let it rattle. My pops used to always say, better an empty house than a bad tenant when he would fart. And I always liked that expression. How has your experience in the lodge impacted your understanding of brotherhood and the community? It has impacted it by reminding me how important it is and how necessary it is. And it's reminded me that it's worth fighting for those things even when it's tough. Because Freemasonry isn't always a super fun time. Like, people like to think it is. Well, there's two groups. There's one group who will say, like, Freemasonry is conspiracy theorists will say Freemasonry is evil and horrible and blah, 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 and those people believe what they believe. I hope they join the chat. I can talk to them about why they believe that and why they're wrong. And there's the other group who thinks Freemasonry is nothing but, fun times and banquets. The truth is Freemasonry oftentimes is very hard work. You have to organize meetings, you have to organize degrees, you have to organize budgets and correspondence and pay for things. And my experience in Freemasonry has reminded me, or the impact I've had is it's reminded me that it's important, that those things matter, that those things are useful. So yeah, I agree, Shane. Freemasons are not some big conspiracy. Unfortunately, some people think they are. And I do my best with those people to try and explain to them where they're incorrect. I try to be kind about it, but I try to explain to them how and why they're incorrect. I've never heard of ancient AI tech. Let me know more about it. My neighbor across the hall was having chest pains. He was in the hospital. Ooh. Well, I'm glad he is hopefully doing better and had the stents put in. Again, it goes to show you, I have never been, saddened or upset with any of the medical conditions I have, whether it be Kallmann syndrome, having no legs. I probably wouldn't want to be born with legs if I was given the option, but I will say I'm also very grateful that I was born in 1983 when there was, wheelchairs and doctors and kind of a society set up to support me. If I had been born, 50, 100 years ago, it would have been very different. And in the same way, I'm very glad that your neighbor is alive at a time when they can do things like put in stents and treat heart attacks, because for most of human history, the first sign of heart attack was that you were dead. So I'm very happy. I am finding my way well. It's a lot of work and it's challenging, but I hope it's worth it. P. Vecro. So it's wonderful to have you on the channel, Vacro, but I have to disagree with you. Morals and Dogma does not explain everything. I think Morals and Dogma, while it's a good work, is highly overrated, especially amongst both non-Masonic circles, but also some Masons. Morals and Dogma was written by Albert Pike and published by the Southern Jurisdiction of Scottish Rite in I always forget the date, 60 something. Anybody knows, put it in the chat. I can double check. But, first of all, Freemasonry had already existed for approximately, depending how you want to date it, let's say 200 years by the time he wrote it. And he was giving his interpretation of certain things, not an actual history. And also he was really writing for specifically the Scottish Rite and not, Freemasonry itself, nor for, say, emulation rituals. So he is a perspective, but he got many things incorrect as often as he got things correct. I agree, non-Masons do love 1871. There you go. I was close. I said 1868. What do I see as the greatest strength of Freemasonry? The way it welcomes men, and again on the women's side, but the way it welcomes men of faiths, of all faiths, and does not judge. And a close second would be the way it judges, the way it welcomes men of all political beliefs, or does not judge political beliefs. It judges character. Some scientists are referring to it as the seraphim field. I will check that out 100%. Mitchie, calling me a hypocrite Mason, that's okay. I don't think I'm a hypocrite. You can let me know why you think that about me. It's okay. But I would have to disagree with you on that one. Do Freemasons worship Lucifer? Oh, I think Moradin, somebody's been reading Morals and Dogma, or maybe Mackie. It's really neither. It's really what it is ultimately is it is one man's opinions and perspectives on the craft, and how and why he views the craft as important, and he gets a lot of things right. I think a lot of what he said about, say, democracy, for example, was correct-ish, but he also got a lot of things incorrect, like I said. Well, so Albert Pike, so it's not 100% clear to me. Based on his writings, the implication is Albert Pike was a Luciferian. You know, you have to draw a distinction between Luciferianism and Satanism. You know, Albert Pike was also a spiritualist. He, you know, Satan as, you know, the fallen angel, cast down from earth, cast down from heaven or whatever, right? That's kind of one set of beliefs. Luciferians believe there's a difference between that figure and, you know, Lucifer as a bringer of light, kind of the snake in the garden. He's kind of like a Prometheus figure, right? He's one who kind of, in the same way Prometheus brought fire to the mortals, you know, Satan brought evil, but Lucifer brought light, brought knowledge, not light, but brought knowledge. So, you know, I've never personally met any Freemasons who are Luciferians. I've been told that they are there, but I've never met any in my travels, or at least none that I've known. The majority have been of the Christian faith. Then a pretty sizable, you know, next group were Muslims, and then Jewish Masons as well. Never met a Luciferian, but the implication is Albert Pike was one. He kind of wrote about it, and so a lot of people, when they read Morals and Dogma and read that section, assume it applies to all Freemasons, which it does not. Black hole is our macro version. Interesting. I mean, I love science. I love black holes. I love the general theory of relativity. I have a tattoo on my arm of the special theory of relativity, heat. What about as above, so below, and that Masons believe that good deeds outweigh the bad? So Freemasonry is not, Morden, by the way, I'm going to just say this because I always say this, please hit the like and subscribe button. And also, keep in mind, I speak exclusively for myself as a 20-year Mason. I do not speak for, you know, Masonry as a whole. So Freemasonry is not a religion, and what I mean by that is it makes no promises of salvation nor threats of damnation, right? So, you know, a Freemason should never, and if he does say it, he's getting it wrong, but should never say, if you do enough good deeds, you get to heaven, and if you do enough bad deeds, you go to hell. And, you know, if you do enough good Masonic things, you go to heaven. If you do bad things about, you know, the craft, you'll go to hell. Like, Freemasonry makes no promises. Certainly Freemasonry would encourage you to do good deeds on earth, because you should do good deeds. I mean, everybody would. You should be charitable, you should be kind, you should be generous. But it's not saying do those things and you'll get to heaven. It's just saying do those things because it's good, right? If you are for example, a Christian Freemason, you know, you may believe, okay, I should do good things. So, like, if you were, let's say, not a Freemason, but a Christian, you may believe, okay, I should do good things to do good things, but that's not what will get me into heaven. It's a belief in Jesus Christ. But you'll still do good things. You know, Freemasonry, again, is giving you, hopefully, lessons and instructions on living a moral life, on doing good things, but it doesn't imply or promise that doing those things is what gets you an afterlife. For that, you need to look at your religious or spiritual leadership. Freemasonry maybe the way to think about it is Freemasonry has some lessons of how to live here on earth, but those lessons do not impact your soul or what happens to it after you pass away. For that, you need to go to your priest, your rabbi, your imam, your sharing circle, you know, your Hindu leader, whatever it might be. See, and perfect example from Spirit, right? Today, Masonry led me to apologize to a person that I wronged. Yeah, Freemasonry does teach you those lessons, right? And it does, if you comply, it can absolutely help you. And it's done the same thing for me, where I've had a bad day, I've got pissed off at someone, I've acted in a way I wish I hadn't, and I and I apologize to them. And Freemasonry kind of reminds me, hey, he's a brother, you need to do that, or whatever it is. But it's never, no Freemasonry has never taught me or told me, that doing those things is a path to spiritual salvation. That's a separate issue, right? As Dad says, Freemasonry is not a faith. It is not. We have men of every faith in Freemasonry, to my knowledge, or almost every faith. P. Vacro, perhaps, I guess we're all going to find out sooner or later, so I guess we'll know for sure. I believe that there is some type of eternal idea, which is kind of a Masonic phrase in some jurisdictions, an eternal idea that resides within us. I hope there is anyways, that carries on after we pass away, but I don't know for sure. I take it as the soul's destiny. I like that as a that's a really pretty kind of phrase or title, soul's destiny, or the soul's destiny. Yeah, it's where we're going sooner or later. We're all gonna have to, so I have to kind of make peace with it. I certainly do like the fact that in Freemasonry, oftentimes there is an encouragement to consider one's mortality, and to be reminded of it, and almost in some ways, that reminder pushes people in some ways maybe towards their religious faith. Because if you are, let's say, a Christian, and Freemasonry is reminding you of your own mortality, maybe that will encourage you to think, okay, I can get my house on earth in order, but I need to focus on my spiritual house as well, and go back to your church, your mosque. Who knows? Maybe that works. I don't have a church myself. I wouldn't call myself a Christian. I believe in a supreme being, but who knows? The purpose of Freemasonry is, again, the purpose of the Freemasonry is to fight for a better world through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. I think that's a fair point, P. Vacro. Certainly, I think the way we speak affects the direction we go in life. That does make sense to me. I hope we go in a positive way as much as we can. Even sometimes not even what we speak, but just what we say, right? If we're saying what we say in our minds, if we're saying in our minds limited things or having negative thoughts, we're more likely to limit our actions. So I think that's 100% fair. We're not limited. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're capable of more than we think. And maybe one of the ways that we can find out what we're capable of truly is through Freemasonry. That is something I believe. It's not the only way. Maybe it's not even the best way. Who knows? There might be a million other ways to determine what we're capable of. But I think I 100% believe that Freemasonry is one way to help us determine how far we can expand within our limits. They should make the world a better place by making it moral. Christian laws should be government laws so we can be moral again. John Doe, welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope you'll hit that like and subscribe button. I speak exclusively for myself and no one else. But I do have to disagree with you, John Doe. I do not believe that laws should be based on a particular religious faith, be they Christian or otherwise. I'm again talking about this from the Enlightenment perspective, being someone who is himself a fan of the Enlightenment. I believe that there is a way to create laws out of reason and tolerance and understanding and pluralism. That is the best way to approach. But I speak for myself. How do you personally experience and practice the core values of brotherly love, relief, and truth in your daily life and within the lodge? Trial and error, a lot of practice, a lot of very challenging decisions you have to make. Hola, quiz. It's tough, I suppose by just thinking about it a lot, right? By always trying to keep it on my mind. Especially if I have certain deficiencies of character, which I have many deficiencies of character, trying to figure out how I can best deal with those. So, Like temperance. I'm not a very patient person. I wish I was more patient. And because of that, one thing I try to do is always remember my Masonic lessons around temperance and not rushing to things, taking my time, things of that nature. I think it's really, really critical to do that. And I'm very proud of the way Masonry has encouraged within me temperance. Let's give it another 10 minutes, then we'll start on today's subject, Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. We have got, by the way, 15 votes on your favorite Enlightenment speaker, round 2. In this case, we have got Thomas Jefferson at 27%, John Adams at 7%, George Washington at 60%, Condorcet at 7%. 3 Americans, 1 Frenchman. I agree. Or for Masonic, if you want to use a Masonic metaphor, maybe what we could say is the hammer and chisel, or the maul and chisel, should never be feared, for they will shape ourselves into a perfect ashlar or a perfect stone. But that's a good expression, P, or Vacro. I appreciate it. So I do hope everybody is doing well. Thank you, everybody who's joined so far. Another 9 minutes. George Washington went with. Okay, if you don't mind me asking, Vacro, why did you go with George Washington? And it's funny, a lot of people don't think about it, but, to me, when I think about America, I think of it as the longest running experiment of Enlightenment values. It took place during the Enlightenment. Many of the founding fathers were Enlightenment thinkers. I do get concerned sometimes in 2025 that those values are kind of depreciating and being replaced with some new values that I'm not a huge fan of. But that's one of those things where I think you kind of just have to have faith that people will find those values once again. And if you don't share those values, then that's okay too. Thank you, Masonic. And by the way, thank you everybody for joining. It's been a great few days of streams. I've been checking out my stats and they're all going in the right direction. The numbers are all pointing out, and that is thanks to you guys. So I truly, truly appreciate it. ¿Cómo estás? Bien. Muy bien. I think I got that right. I've been to Mexico 3 times, but I don't speak Spanish well at all. I picked up a few words here and there. Most of my Spanish came from community. So, ¿dónde está la biblioteca? I have heard Masonic ritual in Spanish, and it was incredible. One of my fondest Masonic memories is hearing Masonic ritual in a different language than English. I loved it. And I've been encouraging Masons to spend more time publishing their works in different languages. French, Spanish, whatever it might be. I think that's important. I think it matters. RMDM, well, I will not confirm nor deny, but if you hit the like and subscribe button, if you were a satisfied customer. Welcome from Kentucky. I hope you're doing well. As always, hit that like button. Let me know how it's going, how you're doing. Let me know who you voted for in the second round of favorite Enlightenment thinker, favorite Enlightenment Freemason, I should say, and let me know maybe why you picked that particular person. What was it about? If you did the vote. You can. You just have to ask. Well, I was just making a joke. I promise you, I've never sold crack. So I was just making a joke about confirming nor denying. It's kind of like the old McCarthyism, right? Are you now or have you ever been? Um, Somebody on the stream above, maybe the message only showed up to me. Someone on the stream above said, "This guy sold me, sold me drugs," and I was like, "I can't confirm nor deny that." Oh, I see what you're saying. But I promise you, I am not now, nor have I ever been a drug dealer. I promise. Um, Shalom. But Bong, I hope you're doing well. George Washington was a warrior. I 100% agree with that. Again, it's like everything. I'm not saying he was a perfect person. I don't think anybody's a perfect person. But he certainly was very influential. Now Lewis is getting his friends to dislike. You just can't win, you know? So, 4 more minutes, then we'll start on the main topic, which again, Freemasonry and Enlightenment. I'm going to be looking at an Oxford academic paper entitled Enlightenment Foundations. It's from Freemasonry, a very short introduction. Oh, maybe I won't. Why can't I find it now? Let me try a different one, since apparently I lost it. Okay, we'll go with Freemasonry, a living expression of the Enlightenment. It is, but you know what? What can you do? And now we got people making fun of my nose. I tell you, you just can't win. You know what? A couple days ago on the stream, they told me I looked like Matt Damon. So, are you saying Matt Damon has a big nose? Maybe it's just the way the camera is as well. You got to keep that in mind also. He was an incredibly important figure, and I'm sure I've heard that a lot of his what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of, like, just at the time, his soldiers, his followers viewed him as a god amongst men as well. Can I be a moderator? Let's see. All right, I'll add you as a moderator. All right, you should be all set. So let's talk about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. This is from a 1974 paper. I don't know if I'm a great, wonderful person, but I try my best. Much has been said and written about America. Much has been said and written in America about Freemasonry and the position which should be taken toward membership in this fraternal society, right? Position by churches, by civic groups, by society in general. There's been many times where there's been like anti-Masonic groups, for example, that pop up. Even today being 1974, much is being said about the subject in connections with the present discussion on Freemasonry. This was in 1974 when there were some anti-Masonic groups growing. I'm just pulling down here for a second. Instead of these ancient origins, so it's not, ancient origins as in Egypt or whatever it is, or all these kind of conspiracy theorists, speculative Masonry is actually an outgrowth of the operative Masons of the Middle Ages. Theirs was a mobile profession since they traveled from job to job. The center of their activity was the lodge, a temporary hut or tent put up near the site of the new building. Masons living away from home would eat and possibly even sleep there. Thus, they developed customs of their own, as was the case in some other medieval guilds. Because the individual stonemason traveled from place to place, it was necessary for him to have some method of mutual recognition. So it was the mason's word was imparted under oath of secrecy to the skillful and initiated craftsman. It served the same purpose as a trade union card would serve today. Furthermore, as time went on, certain ceremonies were attracted to the giving of this word. There were test questions and answers connected. Hello, welcome back, X. Connected with it and similar to those found in so-called Masonic catechisms years later, or column responses. Thus, the rudiments of a ritual developed. From this point, it was only one step further to the speculative element of modern Freemasonry, evolving out of the usages and customs of stonemasons of the Middle Ages. The next step in the origin of speculative Masonry was the custom of permitting gentlemen who had no connection with operative Masonry to become accepted as members of the local lodge. My day is going well. I'm just reading this about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment. Often, the guilds had great influence in the community. Thus, if anyone wanted to acquire power in a city, he would do some favor for one of these guilds and in turn would be accepted as an honorary member. The custom continued to grow until the 17th century. Apparently, these gentlemen masons, or speculative masons, tended to gather in separate lodges. Walton Hanna believes that it was in these lodges of acceptance, speculative elements, and particularly the ritual, were developed. The union of 4 of these lodges in London on June 24th, 1717, to form the Grand Lodge is considered by most historians as beginnings of actual speculative Freemasonry. However, it should not be considered separate, but rather in connection with the publication of Anderson's book for the Constitutions, the first edition of which came out in 1723, which added a 3rd degree, amongst other things. This brief historical background of the origin of Freemasonry is necessary in order to understand that it is more than a coincidence that the 18th century, which was the age of Enlightenment, also saw the birth and rapid growth of maturity of modern speculative Masonry. To put it another way, the religion, or as some might say, the philosophy of that organization is of such a nature that it becomes clear that Freemasonry is a child of the Enlightenment of the 18th century. As far back as there were stonemasons using them. Thank you, Quizzy Corbin. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The Age of Enlightenment, one of the greatest periods in the intellectual history of the world, because of the far-reaching effects which it had on thinking men, had 3 major characteristics: substitution of natural law for supernatural law, exalted human reason, hope to raise men from low social estate, which owing to the reign of superstitious tyranny had fallen, and to restore him to that dignity and happiness which philosophers of that time felt he had the right as a rational creature. All right, I'm going to be back in just 1 second. I'm going to go close my window because there's some work happening outside. I feel like it's getting in the way. I'll be back in just 1 moment. All right, hopefully you guys can hear it better now. That was getting very annoying. Enlightenment is kind of it sounds religious, but obviously it was not an anti-religious. I guess in some ways it was an anti-religious movement. It certainly was it was anti the belief that from religion you could derive power, like a priest had power because of his religious belief. Certainly you had that kind of anti-view, right? Anti-religious view. That's right. That's how I do it. So, based on Enlightenment values, based on Enlightenment values, these ideas, it's easy to see how and why speculative Freemasonry would support these values as well as, grow to be tolerant of religious faiths of all different kinds. Right? Freemasonry became deistic, so belief in a supreme being, but not necessarily a religious, any type of religious doctrines. Especially since its founders wanted to use Freemasonry as a means of improving the morals of people and at the same time putting forward the ideas of enlightenment. Not all of the founders, but some of them for certain. The place to look for proof of this is in the charges of a Freemason, as they are found in Anderson's Book of Constitution, 1723. There, the first charge concerning God and religion is significant. It says, "A Mason is obliged by his tenure to obey the moral law, and if he rightly understands the art, he will never be a stupid atheist, nor an irreligious libertine. But though in ancient times Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country nation, whatever it was, yet 'tis now thought more expedient only to oblige them to that religion to which all men agree, leaving their particular opinions to themselves, that is, to be good men and true, or men of honor and honesty, by whatever denominations or persuasions they may be distinguished, whereby Masonry becomes the center of a union and the means of conciliating true friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance." So in that case, with that, you also see this discussed kind of later in, again, morals and dogma, which got some things right, some things wrong. When Albert Pike talks about Freemasonry as being, quote unquote, the universal religion, he's not using it to mean religion in the sense of Christian, Jewish, whatever it might be. He's using it in the same way Anderson discusses it here, where he says, once again, "Be though in ancient times Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country or nation, whatever it was, yet 'tis now thought a more expedient to oblige them to that religion to which all men agree," otherwise known as to that religion which is universal, leaving their particular opinions to themselves. So leaving them to believe, again, to be and believe in Christianity, Muslim, Jewish, Wiccan, Hindu, you leave that to themselves, and instead you oblige them to be good men and true, or men of honor and honesty, by whatever denomination or persuasions they may be distinguished, whereby Masonry becomes the center of union and the means of conciliating true friendship among persons that have remained at a perpetual distance. I will not say that because I do not like Mussolini. I think he was a bad dude. I mean, he's passed away, but I'm not a fan. So, again, right, when people say Freemasonry is a religion, because it's the, universal religion, what he's saying is Freemasonry allows men and encourages men to be faithful to whatever their personal and particular opinions of religion are and what they believe, and rather ask them only to be obliged to be good men and true, and to not push away men who may have a faith that is different than theirs, which I think is a wonderful thing. The Templars started life as a part of which religious order? Well, the Templars would have been Christian, right? Because they started off as knights who would, escort Christians traveling to the Holy Land during the Crusades. You're not a wannabe, you're a Mason. Not everybody has recognition with everybody else, which is perfectly fine. I may not be able to sit and lodge with you because you don't have recognition with Ontario, but I would still call you a Mason spirit, and I'd still be happy to hang out with you. Recognition is just one of those things. I outrank, I am Master Mason, so I do outrank a fellow craft, but you're still a Mason. In these words are summed up and I'm putting this in major brackets, religion of Masonry, as it has continued to the present day, which is not a religion. Again, it's this idea that men of every religion are welcomed in the craft. And also the idea of doing something religiously, right? I watch scary movies religiously. Doesn't mean, Freddy Krueger is my priest, although he could be, I suppose. I watched those movies so many times, but rather that it's something I do regularly and, without fail, religiously in that sense. Some people will say they love cars and they wash their car religiously. Thank you, quiz. My favorite Bible verse, I haven't read a lot of the Bible, Austin 3:16. And if you know, you know. The first charge and expression of the religion of nature, the religion of enlightenment, the religion of natural man, which Masonry continues to champion. This was also the idea of a universal fraternity that would appeal to men of all religions. Joseph Newton, the Mason, is correct when he says that in the Book of Constitutions of 1723, Masonry severed himself once and for all from any one church or sect, making itself henceforth free from any system of theology. From this time on, Freemasons were to be held to that religion in which all men agree. That religion, according to the charges, is simply to be good men and true, or men of honor and honesty. What more is this than the religion of the Enlightenment or deism? Here's that common denominator of natural religion that the deists were looking for, and which in the end they made primarily a system of morals that they felt were part of the law of nature. No wonder this first charge has been looked upon as the introduction of a new religion into Masonry. Furthermore, the reason given for this change from Christianity, which had been part of the ritual of the old operating guilds of Masons, to an enlightened religion, is stated in the words, "'Tis now thought more expedient." These words seem to indicate that a deliberate change was being made in the nature of Masonry. The one theme that runs through the remaining charges is that a Freemason should be an upright person. He should live in such a way that he will credit both to himself and Freemasonry. This again is that reflection of that attitude of deism which made morality the center of religion, the one uniting feature. Rosalie is back. Welcome, Rosalie. That the founders of Freemasonry intended it to teach this universal religion in which morality and the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man were to be stressed is certainly a conclusion reached by Masonic writers, Dara, for example, pointing out that Freemasonry rests on a broad spirit of tolerance and toleration, which is something that has always attracted me to it. I think the world needs more tolerance and toleration. So I do my best to be live every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. There might be no disputes over religion. The founders of Freemasonry eliminated from the speculative system of the society all references to any but those fundamental religious principles upon which all men could agree. The ideals of enlightenment in the striking way says, Mason is taught to see God in everything, to behold him in every page. It's not quite true, but I get what they're saying. To use reason for his lamp, education for his guide. We are taught that. This is a book, a paper, Freemasonry, a living expression of the Enlightenment. It's not the only living expression, by the way. America is a living expression of the Enlightenment. He was a French thinker during and a Freemason during the Enlightenment period. Caitlin says hello, welcome back. Where was I? Freemasonry holds that there be many paths that lead to the throne and the all-loving Father, which all start from a common source. Freemasonry believes that through these paths appear to branch off in various directions, yet they all reach the same ultimate goal, and that to some men, one faith is better and to others another. And so, with tender tolerance and real charity, it bids all its children Godspeed on the mystic quest, which ends in a union with the same God, which I 100% agree with. I think more people should view the world that way. Also, the ideal of enlightenment that man and society are capable of reaching perfection, that man is inherently sinful, is a part of Freemasonry. Thus, one of its exponents says clearly that it does not teach human nature is a depraved thing. So also, in the lecture directed to the entered apprentice, he's reminded that he who enters the order as a rough stone can be adjusted by the working tools of the fellow craft into a perfect stone. So I would slightly disagree with this idea, both from an Enlightenment perspective and a Masonic perspective. I don't believe that Enlightenment ideals or Masonic ideals ever taught that Freemasonry ever taught that man was capable of achieving perfection. Rather, what I think it teaches is that it is a worthy pursuit to try and achieve perfection. And whether you succeed or not in that pursuit, it is worth trying. And it is possible to be more perfect today than you were yesterday. I would say most Freemasons, I think, would argue that to make a state of 100% perfection is not possible, but rather it is worth attempting and worth trying to better oneself. And that to do so does not require kind of religion or religious beliefs, but rather it is based on individual work and individual effort, right? I think that to me is what I would say is the kind of the ideal, right? Because I think pre-enlightenment, the ideal was, look, man is inherently sinful, inherently bad, which I do somewhat believe. And the one way to achieve, you shouldn't even strive for perfection. Rather, you just, through your religious faith, believe in a supreme being, believe in Jesus Christ, and, perfection kind of follows. As opposed to the Enlightenment teaching, which is, yes, man is imperfect, man has many imperfections, but it is possible to try to improve upon those, and to improve upon those through reason and kindness and democracy and pluralism and tolerance and those type of things. So that is what I would kind of say. My name is Cameron. Vacro, I really like that expression. My dad was a sailor, so you might like that expression too. Ships don't sail on yesterday's wind. I like that. I'm gonna save that expression. I think it's a good one. Another Masonic writer puts it, human nature is perfectible by an intensive process of purification and initiation. So again, I would say Freemasonry, it's not that human nature can be made perfect, but rather human nature can be improved and the individual can be improved. There is yet another major area to be pointed out. Yes, me too. We heard the sirens. Hope everybody's okay. The symbolism of Masonry is very evident in the initiations of candidates. The working tools of Masonry also fit into ideas of Enlightenment period. We, as speculative Masons, symbolize the labors of our predecessors by engaging in the construction of a spiritual temple in our hearts, pure and spotless, fit for the dwelling place of Him who is the author of purity, whether God is worshipped in spirit and in truth, and whence every evil thought and unruly passion is to be banished. It is summed up thus: Masonry is a system of moral mysticism. I wouldn't call it moral mysticism, I'd call it moral learnings, expressing faith in God or in a supreme being, and the eternal life in old and simple symbols of the building art, awakening the better angels in the nature of man and teaching the brother love. So I would say that last part, I would say is 100% true. We use symbols of the building art or symbols of stonemasonry, squares, compasses, levels, stones, rough ashlars, pure ashlars. We use both the symbols and the words from those things to awaken within us the better angels of our nature, and to therefore encourage us to practice things such as brotherly love. I'm just happy that they're here, right? And Freemasonry is not for everybody, and that's okay too. But I appreciate people being here. I appreciate people hanging out. Thank you, everybody who has hit the like and subscribe button so far. If you've not done so yet, I hope that you will do so. And I hope that you'll check out my other streams. The best way, or other streams, other videos. The best way you can support this channel is by sharing the content, liking the content, and commenting. You know, the more of that I get, the more engagement I get, the more YouTube, you know, treats me well. So if you get the chance to do so, I hope that you will. And thank you everybody for being here once again. I truly appreciate it. Um, and answer the poll question, favorite Enlightenment Freemason. You know, it's interesting. I've talked before about, you know, yesterday I said, like, you could argue Freemasonry is a modern Freemasonry, because Freemasonry existed pre the Enlightenment, but modern Freemasonry is kind of an ongoing Enlightenment experiment. I think you could argue the same is true of America, that America is kind of a current Enlightenment experiment. The Enlightenment was very much concerned with new scientific discoveries. As a result, it was very much interested in physics and mathematics. It was also interested in building a better world. Notice what I always say, Freemasonry, the underlying, in my opinion, the underlying ethos of Freemasonry is that the world can be made better through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. I truly believe that. It is also interested in building a better world and improving the morals of people without resorting to any religious faith. No worries, it's good to have you back. In that respect, the operative Masonic lodges became a perfect means through which to carry out these objectives. The science of architecture could be given a symbolic or spiritual meaning. The working tools of the Mason could also be treated in the same way. The ideas of the fraternity and equality could be fostered through such a group. Mathematics, particularly geometry, could also be given a prominent place in the whole symbolism of the order. Thus, the God of Freemasonry became the great architect of the universe, or as he is called in the second degree, and you'll have to join to find out. Right? So the idea, again, the Enlightenment views science as an incredibly important thing. Freemasonry views science as an incredibly important metaphor by which we can better understand how to learn about ourselves and the world at large. The Enlightenment was anti-religious, many of its ideas, method, and aims. Freemasonry is also in many ways anti-religious. It wants brothers to be supportive of their religious faith, but it does not prioritize any one religion over another. Part of it is its enlightenment, and part of it is because it is a civic institution. And as a civic institution, right, it has to be respectful of the beliefs of all of the men of faith who join its ranks. You know, which to me is 100% fair and important, and the thing I love about the craft, to be honest. So it's interesting because in this book, Freemasonry, A Living Expression of Enlightenment, the person who wrote it did a pretty decent job in describing a lot of it. But he comes to the conclusion that Christianity is not compatible with Freemasonry. And again, I think it's because he does have a certain misunderstanding of what Freemasonry is. He's not recognizing what it is ultimately is a civic institution, not a religious / anti-religious order. And because it is a civic institution, you know, civic institutions by their nature are Enlightenment kind of style. Like America as a civic institution is an Enlightenment institution, right? And you never say Christians cannot be Americans. In the same way, you know, because America welcomes people, and it did at the best parts of its history and time, welcome men of all faiths and women of all faiths and people of all faiths. In the same way, you know, Freemasonry, like America, Freemasonry is ultimately a Enlightenment institution. It's also ultimately a civic institution, and as such needs to welcome men of all faiths without putting one above the other, or, you know, drawing distinctions between the one or the other. If that made any sense, I hope it did. I guess what I would conclude with, therefore, is Freemasonry and America are both equally Enlightenment experiments and civic institutions. And on both accounts, it cannot or should not place any one religious belief or religious dogma over any other, but doing so does not make it anti-religious nor anti any one particular faith. I hope that made sense. Quirky, anybody else watching this, let me know if it did. Let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, and let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about. By the way, 24 votes, favorite Enlightenment Freemason. Thomas Jefferson, 21%, John Adams, 17%, George Washington, 58%, Connor Set, 4%. So one person. Oh, I got his name spelled wrong. Sorry, Concord Set. I don't know. Did I get his name spelled incorrectly? I did. It should have been a D in there. Concord Set is what I meant to say. Sorry about that. He advocated reason, progress, and social reform, believed the power of human reason to improve society, and championed ideas like economic freedom, religious tolerance, legal reform, and the abolition of slavery. Famously advocated for equal rights for women, including the right to vote, a concept quite progressive for his time, and he was also a Freemason. You're not going to have to learn more about this stuff, but maybe Concord Set would be my favorite Enlightenment figure. Concord's writings and actions exemplified the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason, individual liberty, and progress. He believed that through education, scientific advancement, and political reform, humanity could achieve a more just and equitable society. Contribution to political thought. I'm really liking this Condorcet fellow, especially the fact that back in the Enlightenment he was advocating for women's rights and the right to vote. Sometimes nowadays when I see men on YouTube talking about taking away the right to vote for women, it makes me very sad. Because even though I'm not a woman, it feels like a massive step backwards in progress. And I'd be very sad if that were to happen. Sean's, I mean, I'm a member I'm the worshipful master of Border Cities Lodge 554, and I love it. It's my, I'm a member of 5 lodges. 3 in Windsor, Ontario, 1 in Texas, and 1 in Israel. And I love all of them. Ball sucks Napoleon. Why do you say that, Ball? I mean, he was certainly a very impressive military leader, a military commander. I would not call him a Enlightenment leader, though, necessarily. But as a or one of the best, but as a military leader, he was top notch. That is true. By the way, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button if you are just joining. We have Gareth joining us. Thank you for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope everybody is doing well. I'll be back on another stream tonight at 1 a.m. I do have to. Now, sometimes you will be lucky enough to become a honorary member and you don't have to pay fees. But the lodge has to invite you. There has to be something kind of special happening. Normally, though, you have to pay fees for all the lodges. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap. If they cross over if you're in the same jurisdiction. So, for example, the 3 lodges in Canada, member of all meet in the same building. So it's regular for members of each lodge to visit each other lodge and hang out with each other and take part in the same events. The one in Israel and the one in Texas, I mean, are too far apart from any other, They will take part in lodges events in their own area, but, they can't really do stuff with each other. They're just too far apart, nor with my lodges in Canada. Though I've always thought it'd be fun to organize some type of global Masonic conference where Masons from all over the world come together. There are some of those that kind of happen, but yeah, I'm a member of Lodge Holy Land number 50 in Israel, at Tel Aviv. So a lodge references the people who meet. So the way I always describe it is a lodge is the team, the Masonic building or Masonic temple is like the stadium. So you would say, I'm a member of Border Cities Lodge, and we meet at the Windsor Masonic Temple is equivalent to saying, I am a member of the Detroit Lions, I play at Ford Field. The lodge is the group of people, and the temple or the building is where they meet. I have not ever visited. I would love to one day. I've not ever had the opportunity. Um, you know, being a member of a lodge in Israel does not mean by any means that I support the actions of Israel government. That's a whole different thing. But I do separate the behavior of the government from the people living therein. I think you have to. I think you just have to. So I'm, yeah, proud to be a member. 30 best Marquis de Concord say quotes. The progress of the human mind is undeniable. The perfecting of society must go hand in hand with the perfecting of the individual. That is very much a Masonic ideal. The perfecting of society must go hand in hand with the perfecting of individuals. Education is the key to freedom and progress. That is also a very Masonic ideal. I mean, I don't know how that current lodge is dealing with what's going on over there. My assumption is they are trying their best to keep a low profile about it one way or the other, because I do understand they have, you know, members who are Palestinian as well as, or at least Muslim as well as Jewish as well as Christian. So my assumption is they're trying to keep their heads down about it. Sometimes that's kind of all you can do in these situations, you know. Um, I am not a member of the Lions Club, so I don't know what they're actually, you know, I know that they, like I said, my assumption is they're trying to keep their heads down, but I don't know one or the other for sure. Um, because you're kind of in a situation where anything you do is going to be like, because if the lodge were to come out and let's say, you know, support Israel, well, obviously they're going to get a lot of heat for that, and rightly so. Um, you know, for what Israel's doing, and that is going to blow back on members, and members are going to have to then deal with who knows what, getting hate mail, getting hate emails. By the same token, if they come out and say, you know, they're supportive of the people of Gaza, they're kind of stuck in the same boat. So either way, they're kind of in a situation where they don't, you know, it's dangerous to take positions where your members can be attacked. You know, that's why I always try my best to make it clear that I speak exclusively for myself and no one else, because I don't want people seeing what I say and then going like, oh, so Cameron has, you know, said he doesn't support the actions of Israel, therefore Masons don't support those actions. You know, I don't want people to think that, because every Mason will have his own views on these things, and they should be allowed to, right? And some Masons, and you don't want to have a situation where people are assuming that one Mason speaks for the whole. That can be a dangerous thing. I mean, I do hope that my suspicion, I don't know, right? My suspicion is they're probably doing things privately, like private donations to charitable efforts to support those things, you know, but I have no way of knowing. And I've not asked because I've not, again, had the chance to ever visit the lodge. I get the newsletters, but again, I think they're just trying to keep things kind of down, kind of keep things on the not get caught in any crossfire, yeah, at least figuratively. It is 2:47. Welcome back, BB. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. Um, and I hope that you're having a great day. Other quotes: equality is a privilege, it's not a right. I'm not sure if or sorry, equality is not a privilege, it is a right. I agree with that. Opinion should be based on reason, not prejudice. I agree with that. The goal of society should be the happiness and well-being of its members. I agree with that. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's a famous quote. Ignorance is the enemy of progress. Freedom of thought is the foundation of civilized society. The pursuit of knowledge should never be hindered by norms or constraints. Every individual has the right to pursue their own happiness. That is a kind of Masonic ideal. War is the greatest obstacle to human progress. I would agree with that. No, you're not. You're not wrong, Gareth. It is a difficult subject, and I never know. I mean, I have struggled a lot with how to deal with it and the best way to approach these things. I mean, again, giving my opinion, um, I don't like to use like necessarily any type of legal terms. I'll just say I think what Israel is doing in Gaza is really, really terrible and really horrible, and it makes me incredibly sad. Beyond that, and I do, I don't blame the people of Gaza, um, and nor do I think Israel is making those choices to do that, and it is not the Israeli people, but the Israeli leadership, and I think it's really, really terrible. But I also think that we as Freemasons, or myself as a Freemason, needs to remember and be respectful of all of our members anywhere in the world and not lump them in the same category as the government. Even if a Mason may support the government, you still have to love them. So the example I will always give, Lem here, welcome Lem here. The example I will always give is in World War II, or before World War II, excuse me, when the Nazis came to power in Germany, the Grand Lodge of England dropped recognition with the Grand Lodge of Germany and basically said if you're a German Mason, you're not allowed to visit lodges in England, nor are you recognized as being a legitimate Freemason. And they said that because, unfortunately, even though, they kind of lumped in the people of Germany with the political leadership. And what happened? German Masons ended up being taken to concentration camps. So it didn't help the German Masons at all. It didn't result in, the Nazis being kicked out of power. It didn't do anything to stop any of the horrors that happened, right? Cutting people off is never a good idea, even if their actions seem to perhaps justify it. I do believe, even though it's hard for me to sometimes believe this, but I do believe maintaining a relationship, even with those people with whom you disagree, is vitally important, and in the long run, it has a better chance of stopping kind of some of these atrocities that we hear about than otherwise. At the very least, keeping your relationship with the people, even if you may dispute the government and governmental actions. I hope that made sense, Gareth. Let me know if it did or if it didn't. And thank you everybody for joining so far. And as Quizzy says, please hit that like and subscribe button. I've got 2,000, I'm 3 subscribers away from 2,230. So, we're on the right track. And I will be doing the stream once again at 1 a.m. because it's funny, for some reason, I have a bunch of night owls on my stream who love staying up late at night. So I don't know why. Thank you, Gareth. I appreciate that. By the way, Gareth, did you vote on your favorite Enlightenment Freemason of the list of 4 there? And if so, which one did you pick? 7:52 in the UK, and welcome back, Kirk the Ripper Hammett. I hope that you're doing well, and thank you for being here. And by the way, as always, Gareth, anybody who's interested, you can also support me on Patreon. You can even join for free if you want, but it's patreon.com/square and compass. So you can join me on that. Hit that like and subscribe button, but join me on Patreon as well. Patreon.com/square and compass, all one word. Patreon.com/square and compass. No worries, Quizzy. So I know it's tough. Just keep in mind and remember, patreon.com/square and compass, and you can always hopefully find it later. Shimshon, I don't think you've ever been here before. Do you celebrate Pride Month? I do celebrate Pride Month. I think Pride Month is awesome. I am not a member of the LGBTQ community myself, but I've got some friends and some good friends who fit into those categories, or at least who fit into the L, the G, and the T category. And I love them. Sometimes they're my brothers. And so I absolutely support Pride Month. I mean, I guess I don't celebrate Pride Month because it's not mine to celebrate, but I certainly support those who celebrate Pride Month. Um, I believe it does. I need to go back and double check the number of different multiple Grand Lodges it has. Some are recognized, some are not. I need to double check that. I forget now. Like Brazil has, there's different jurisdictions have different multiple Grand Lodge. Kurt, let me know why you voted GW if you didn't before. And Shimshan, if you'll hit the like and subscribe button. LG, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and there's letters after that as well, which I'm not as familiar with. So, like I said, when it comes to Pride Month, I have many lesbian friends, many gay friends. I have trans friends. Some of them are my brothers in Freemasonry, and I love them all. So, yeah, I don't celebrate it myself, but I support those who do. And I wish them a very enjoyable Pride 2025. I did think personally, and this is just my opinion, again, I speak for myself. I did feel in years past that it got a little bit oversaturated. Like every second, social media post was about Pride, and every company had like 17 Pride ads, or Pride advertisements, and it felt like it was oversaturated. So I think people got kind of tired of it a little bit, even if you're part of the community, which I think I understand that happens. But what I said, I support those who celebrate Pride Month, and I've even done interviews about Freemasons being in Pride parades, for example. Pride is bad, though, whether the emotion or the event. Yes, M&M's, Gareth. I don't think it is, No Sage, but welcome back, No Sage. It's great to have you once again. Thank you so much for being here. I've always wondered, or since I talked to you before, your name, No Sage, is that a reference to like a smudging ceremony? The idea of not using sage to smudge your house or your place? Because I do know sage is sometimes used in smudging ceremonies in, for example, First Nations groups. I was just curious. I think I remember you, Alyssa. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. For me, I kind of go with plain because I'm boring. I'm a basic itch like that. But I also love one of the things I love about going to the States is you guys have so many different flavors of M&Ms that it's super fun. I love all your different M&M flavors. Vanessa, welcome, Vanessa. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. We were talking about Freemasonry and the Enlightenment period. Oh, so it's just your name backwards. Okay, that's really cool. I did not know that. So so Steve Wozniak I knew that. I didn't know Tom Hanks was a Freemason. That's really cool. Learn something new every day. Vanessa, I'm glad you're doing amazing. I hope everybody is doing very well. Yeah, so there are a ton of Enlightenment things who are Freemasons. Freemasonry and the Enlightenment kind of went hand in hand. They had very similar kind of ideas and ideals, which I really appreciated. They very because I would consider myself. If you had to ask me what is my overarching philosophical ideas, it would be Enlightenment ideas. You know what? If they start coming for you, just tell them Cameron says you're cool, and they will go, "Who is Cameron?" And then you'll show them the stream, and then they'll like and subscribe, and we will be absolutely fine. So we'll show them. I just think because you're not on there before, but I like them. I mean, to be honest, if I had to pick my favorite, like if of the two, Ben Franklin versus um, George Washington, if I had to pick the one I like more, that'd be really tough. But I'd probably have to give it to George Washington as well. Even though I think Ben Franklin was a better writer, said more cool stuff, did a lot of really interesting things. I mean, George Washington was the first president, for heaven's sakes. Like, you know, it's a pretty big deal. And again, there's actually a really cool Masonic, this thing here, a really cool Masonic tribute to George Washington, which is like 2 minutes away, like 2 seconds away from me, across the border. It's incredible. I've never read it. I should read it. I'm sure it is beautiful. I'm sure that Washington would probably be able to write pretty well. One of my favorite political speeches I just discovered was Churchill's eulogy of Chamberlain. If you get the chance, please check it out. You know what, Kirk, my godchild, who is way too young and drives me crazy because it makes me feel old, keeps asking me things about like skibidi and toilets, and I don't know what they're talking about. I have no clue. I find it very confusing, very strange. All these young people with their words. I kind of get how my dad must have felt when I was growing up. These young kids, it's ridiculous. It's a way to make me feel old, Kirk the Ripper. It's funny because I never thought I'd get old. I remember in my Masonic lodge. By the way, M&M's, I'm eating your stuff and it's delicious, so please sponsor me. So I joined Freemasonry, and I should do that Paul. And I had just joined, so I was 24, and I went to a lodge meeting, and we had a refreshments afterward, and I'm in line getting food with everybody else, and there's this fella next to me, he would have been 40 something at the time, but I just made some offhand comment like, I'm going to be 25 in a year. I can't believe how old I'm getting. Next year I'm going to be, 26. I'm going to be getting way too old. And then the response was, he looked at me and he said, go F yourself. And then he just walked away because he was 40. So being 40, he, he was like, or over 40, hearing somebody complain about turning 25, he was not having it. And for me, it's like, I would, nowadays, believe me, if I was in lineup somewhere and somebody was, 25 years old, or somebody was 24 years old and then told me they were scared of turning 25 to get old, I would tell them to go F themselves as well, believe me. First, what I would do is I would knock their plate out of their hands, and then I would tell them to go after themselves. Because I would give anything to be 25 again, believe me. So enjoy your youth. It's a wonderful thing. He did. Franklin contributed way more to Freemasonry than George Washington, except George Washington contributed America, which has been one of the main homes of Freemasonry. So I guess it's hard to say, actually. By the way, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. We are going to be ending this stream shortly because I do still have a bunch of work I have to do before we go on with, I'll be back on my 1 a.m. stream, which is going to be crazy. So if you want to stay up late, hang out with me then. Well then, I don't know what this means either, but I was told it's like a young person's thing. It's like these kids have these ideas. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. I never know what's going on. I'm old, I'm confused, I'm tired. I like to sleep in. Becoming all those old people that I used to make fun of. Where did Masons tend to stand on the abolition of slavery? Um, I would say, as a general rule, depending on the time period, Masons were more likely to be in favor of the abolition of slavery than otherwise. But a lot of that depends on the time period as well. So, for example, George Washington was a Freemason. He owned slaves, right? Thomas Jefferson, if I no Thomas Jefferson not. Um, Ben Franklin was around at that time. I don't know if Ben Franklin owned slaves or not, but certainly Ben Franklin knew a lot of slave owners. Um, Having said that, though, especially for example Prince Hall, there was a lot of Prince Hall was obviously opposed to slavery. I mean, I would say if you were a Freemason in England, France, Europe, you were most likely opposed to slavery. If you were a Freemason in America, it was probably 50-50. Um, Prince Hall was an active abolitionist, and he was a Freemason from, Boston. So the Irish lodges were very supportive, and English lodges were very supportive of Prince Hall and his abolitionist movements. So I guess what I'd say is this is very rough, and I should look into some more of it. Um, I would say Freemasons in Ireland and England and Europe were tended to be very anti-slavery, pro-abolitionist. Freemasons in America were probably 50-50. Um, Certainly, if you were in the North, you were more likely to be anti-slavery. And also the time frame, right? In 1776, I'm assuming most Masons in America on either, North or South, were probably, if not pro-slavery, at least accepting of the fact that slavery existed. Again, George Washington being an example. Um, Sorry, Quizzy. No, I'm going to be taking off in a second, so I didn't want to keep you on as a mod because I'll be leaving shortly. I mean, there have been tension between different lodges during various conflicts. So during the Civil War, there were, Masonic lodges in the North, Masonic lodges in the South. You had Masons fighting with each other, but you also had Masons seeing each other on the battlefield, and they would, fight the fight, fight the battle. But at the end of the battle, there are stories of Masons going to rescue their Masonic brothers on the other side, or try to offer them aid, or send their belongings back to their families. There's a Gettysburg tribute called "Friend to Friend," which talks about that. But you also saw that in World War One. And World War One, you had Masons on the Allies side, Masons on the Axis side, who would fight each other during the wars, but then would support each other at the end. In the Battle of the War of 1812, you had Masons who regularly visited each other in their lodges, then when the war started, fighting each other. So, I mean, to the extent it brought tensions, I'm sure it did. We're human beings, right? So, I am aware of the Hiram Awards. So, for example, even in my lodge, right, we say no discussion of religion or politics, which I hope happens all the time. But there can be moments where you know that this person is a staunch conservative, this person is a staunch liberal. Maybe they've been talking outside of lodge and got to some type of political disagreement. You hope that doesn't bring tensions into lodge, but sometimes those things happen. But I would say overall, Freemasonry was always more on the side of anti-slavery than slavery. But again, many Masons have different beliefs. George Washington is a famous example, right? He was a Mason and he owned slaves. And you kind of just have to wrap your head around that as best you can. Certainly, maybe the Enlightenment Masons we're talking about from Europe, Voltaire, Diderot, um, Condorcet, they were all anti-slavery. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it did. Um, and we will be ending this stream in a few more moments. Just one more time, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I am familiar with the Hiram Awards Masonic, Courtney. I actually interviewed two Hiram winners out of California and loved it. And quiz, if you get the chance, Kirk, anybody, once you're done here, I hope you'll take a few moments to go to some of my videos and just leave a comment. Leave a like, leave a like and a comment. Help boost the algorithm. But thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and I will see everybody again shortly.